When it comes to shonen, its popularity can be attributed to its core themes prevalent throughout its many shows. The struggle to chase near impossible dreams and the overcoming of staggering adversity are all themes shown in shonen anime and are encapsulated through its main characters. Whether it be Naruto's journey to be Hokage, Luffy's journey to be Pirate King, Gon's journey to meet his father, or Edward's journey to find the Philosopher's Stone, all these characters embark on journeys to achieve their goals, and on said journey are faced with a multitude of trials to test their fortitude. And even though Haikyuu doesn't have superpowered ninjas or superhuman pirates, the way in which it presents a story is perhaps shonen in its purest form. Yes, Haikyuu is only about volleyball, but with its more realistic low-scaled setting, Karasuno's journey is much more relatable. And yes, Haikyuu does share many shonen tropes, such as having a spiky-haired underdog as its main protagonist, who is accompanied by his foil, who is a dark-haired moody genius. But what separates Haikyuu from other shonens is its greater cast of characters and the challenges that these characters endure. So in this video, what we'll be discussing is how I believe Haikyuu masterfully illustrates the shonen trope of overcoming adversity. Every great shonen has their humble beginnings, such as Goku being born a low-class Saiyan and Naruto's beginning as Konoha's outcast. Additionally, most initial environments that we see our protagonists in are evergreen, safe, boring, and just a speck compared to the greater world yet discovered. These metaphorical token shires that all heroes initially reside in are comfort zones, and that is why the hero's journey and growth are found once our heroes step outside of it. Karasuno's humble beginnings are immediately apparent as they are titled the Flightless Crows, signifying the end of their glory days of the former Karasuno dynasty with the legendary Little Giant and coach Iketsu Ugai. And similarly to Karasuno's reputation, our main protagonist Hinata has humble beginnings as in junior high, he had no access to any organized volleyball team, resulting in a lack of competitive volleyball experience. Also, Hinata lacks height, which is a challenge considering volleyball is a sport dominated by individuals with a tall stature. Despite his shortcomings though, he doesn't lack heart. Regardless of being deprived of resources, Hinata is resourceful and enters himself and his friends into the junior high competition where he has his fateful encounter with Kageyama. Now, Kageyama on the other hand has an origin that is a complete contrast to Hinata's. Kageyama is talented, often called a genius, and attends the prestigious school Kitagawa Daiichi. But, much to his detriment, Kageyama is egocentric and often fails to compromise with his teammates. This grievance is what results in his nickname, King of the Court, a derogatory title aimed to deride his oppressive attitude. Furthermore, Haikyuu's ensemble is very noteworthy, as this is one area in which Haikyuu outshines its contemporaries. See, where most shonen fail, in my opinion, is in their ensemble, and this failure is due to what many anime fans refer to as the Piccolo effect. The Piccolo effect, for those who aren't aware, is when the supporting cast of a show becomes less important as the story progresses. For example, in Dragon Ball Z, the Z fighters are virtually forgotten and outshined by the Saiyans, and eventually, the Saiyans are also pushed to the wayside, making their franchise essentially the Goku and Vegeta show. But I'm glad to say that so far in Haikyuu, that is not the case. Every individual in Haikyuu plays a significant role. Whether it be the performances of the players or management, everyone's individual success contributes to Karasuno's collective success and growth. In most shonen, growth in character does not occur until one has faced difficulties to overcome. And although Karasuno had to overcome many difficulties, no other team contended with Karasuno as hard as Aoba Josai. In a sense, for the first couple of seasons, you can say Aoba Josai was Karasuno's true rival, and each time Karasuno encountered Aoba Josai, those encounters marked major cornerstones for their growth. This rivalry between the two teams even originates back in the days when Oikawa and Kageyama attended Kitagawa Daiichi. At first, Kageyama looked up to Oikawa, seeing him as a possible mentor, but Oikawa doesn't see the relationship the same initially. Instead, Oikawa sees Kageyama's genius-like talent as a threat. Subsequently, this insecurity of Oikawa's becomes one of his driving forces that motivates him to develop an insane work ethic to surpass Kageyama and other geniuses like him, such as Ushijima. However, in Oikawa's endeavor to challenge Kageyama in a rivalry, he inadvertently pushes Kageyama to be contentious towards him. Therefore, this contention fuels Kageyama's motivation to outpace Oikawa. Hence, these two setters put themselves in constant competition with each other, but don't realize that their animosity is fueling their improvement. It is also noteworthy to mention that the first encounter these two had after Kitagawa Daiichi was in a practice match by Oikawa's request. For Oikawa, this match was set up in order to gauge Kageyama's standings with his new team. For Kageyama, this encounter was significant, for the reason that he had to face his former teammates Kindaichi, Kunimi, and Oikawa, who all witnessed his erratic king of the court ways. So not only did Kageyama have to prove himself in terms of skills, but also prove to his former teammates that he matured out of his old tendencies. Also, for Hinata, this practice match is important for him as well, because it is his first match where he's competing with an official team against another. So for Hinata's journey in competitive volleyball, this match is his first big step. Following, the match between Karasuno vs Aobo Josai is very competitive. That is until the star setter Oikawa makes a dramatic late entrance. Once Oikawa takes the stage, the tides of the battle shift drastically. Oikawa dismantles Karasuno with ease by exposing their weaknesses and simultaneously elevates his team to an exceptional level of play due to his coordination. In summary, Oikawa wiped the floor with Karasuno. Although Karasuno won, Daiichi admits that in an official match they will struggle, as they are poor at receiving. Oikawa even teases Daiichi's comments and agrees, but what he says next is very monumental. Oikawa states that Karasuno does have the potential to be great, but as Karasuno improves, so does Aobo Josai. Therefore, not only does Karasuno have to try to catch up, but they also have to improve at a pace so intense that it outpaces the improvement of others. And seeing this dynamic is refreshing, because it introduces a cycle of constant improvement. Not only do the protagonists have to be better than their inevitable foes in the future, but also watch out for their foes from the past. See, in many shonens, after an arc is done, the villain of that arc is no longer seen from again, or even worse, stays stagnant, rendering them harmless. An example of this is the villains in Dragon Ball Z. In Dragon Ball Z, we see our heroes progress, but the villains who were formidable are eventually turned into fodder. This notion is evident when Frieza returns with his father King Cold, and Future Trunks disposes of them with ease. The once frightening Frieza is made a joke in seconds. In Karasuno's case, there seems to be this constant state of urgency because everyone is relentlessly gunning for a spot at Nationals to eventually be the sole victor. This state of urgency makes the rivalries in Haikyuu more interesting because the opponents that Karasuno face are just as desperate to win as they are. This gives the perception that there are no favorites in the setting of Haikyuu, and each victory earned by Karasuno must be done convincingly, not just because they are the protagonists. And each time Karasuno encounters a team they battled previously, their tactics used in their previous match are virtually null, as their opponents has grown as well. With the acquisition of new skills, tactics, and even at times with the recruitment of new powerful members, Karasuno comes to face new challenges from familiar foes. With the constant improvements of other teams, when they are reintroduced, their rematch against Karasuno is much more exciting to watch. We are curious to see what new tricks are under their sleeves this time, and thus, by seeing other teams grow, we are equally rooting for them as with Karasuno. Every individual at some point in their life comes across a character-defining ordeal, and the purpose of such an ordeal is a test to see if we are worthy of our dream. If we fail in our ordeal, we will never have our desires fulfilled, but if we overcome it, then we move a few steps closer to our dreams. However, the attainment of our dreams is not promised, and it's only when we have overcome a multitude of ordeals is when we stand a chance to grasp them. This is why ordeals are character defining. It's because they have the ability to take our dreams away from us. Now the real question is, what becomes of you when you continuously and arduously work towards your dream but still fail? Do you sulk in self-pity, Or are you courageous enough to stand firm and withstand another nightmarish trial? Some will retreat before facing another challenge, but others see no other way. This concept of standing firm throughout demanding trials is shown all throughout shonen anime. This is why Goku dies and is revived many times. It is because in the journey of fulfilling desires, there are multiple deaths and reincarnations, and this idea of dying and coming back is very potent in Haikyuu. Karasuno, for example, went from his glory days with the little giant and Kochukai to being named flightless crows. Hence, this descent from glory is akin to a death. And with Karasuno back at the bottom with his new team, they strive to climb back to glory and revive their prestigious reputation. However, this journey proves to be arduous, as Karasuno goes through many growing pains in order to form into anything astounding. This essential state of discomfort is displayed when Karasuno faces off against their rivals Apple Josai in the semi-finals of the entire tournament. Both sides are shown to be fighting with ferocity. However, Karasuno falls short and faces their first devastating loss. And what's even more devastating about this loss is how close Karasuno was to victory. So, what's so significant about this failure is that it showcases that even though Karasuno worked hard, were determined, and put their blood, sweat, and tears into every play, they still lost. This failure showcases that no matter how hard you work, winning is not owed, and when you think you've caught up to winning, it demands even more out of you. And after such a defeat, what usually occurs is a lot of self-doubt. People become wary of their own abilities and lack faith that their dreams are even attainable. After such a crushing defeat, it is easy to get discouraged, but one must get up and try again. And this notion of perseverance is perfectly encapsulated when Hinata states they will only be weak if they don't get back up after their defeat. This quotation is noteworthy for it highlights the notion of failure being inevitable and that it will always come in many forms, but it is the individual's choice to quit. Those who refuse to quit still have a chance to win, but those who quit permanently will always lose. Now, this new phase in Karasuno's journey can be perfectly expressed through Waka Balboa's quote saying, "It's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." See, Karasuno got hit hard, but if they ever want to go to nationals, they have to get back up and get back up stronger to not only beat Apple Josai, but the stronger Shirato Rizawa and inevitably the stronger teams at nationals. Karasuno knows that their defeat was a result of their inexperience, as half of their starters are first years. And unfortunately, the third years face a dilemma as they are pressured to retire to focus on their college entrance. Hence, the seniors at Karasuno must make a difficult decision to choose between Karasuno's volleyball potential or their education. However, the third years know that they're on the cusp of something great, and if they abandon their juniors, they may never live out their dreams of going to nationals. Hence, when Karasuno reunites, the third years make it known that they are sacrificing their studies and potentially their future for the benefit of the team, which reinvigorates Karasuno to not let their senior sacrifice go in vain. This is where the Tokyo camp plays an important role in the growth of Karasuno. I'll make a separate video on this mini arc as I believe it has numerous interesting story points that I feel like discussing, but for the sake of this video, I'll focus on the story points that are the most relevant to this topic. At the resurrection stage of every hero's journey, there's always a training arc. This is true for Goku when he trained with King Kai after his defeat from Raditz, Naruto when he trained with Jiraiya after his defeat from Sasuke, and Luffy in the 3D2Y arc after his defeat in the Marineford War arc. Every hero has to train to become stronger after they realize what they are currently is not sufficient to accomplish their goal. However, in most shonen, this process is usually brushed over with a training montage or time skip. We don't really see the ups and downs our protagonists go through during their rigorous training, but this lack is something that Haikyuu highlights perfectly. Their process of growing is one that is uncomfortable initially due to growing pains, but what is so refreshing is we get to see these growing pains in Haikyuu. We see Karasuno struggle, stumble, and fall many times before seeing any sort of improvement. For instance, Tsukishima's apathetic nature is becoming problematic as he is unable to be as useful to the team as he used to and is being outpaced by his teammates. In addition, Hinata and Asahi's rivalry for the ace disrupts the team's synergy. And Hinata's desire to develop a new quick and Kageyama's aversion to it results in their first physical altercation, bringing Hinata to tears. Subsequently, Karasuno is dissonant, and they are the worst team attending the camp. These are growing pains. They are ugly and uncomfortable, but necessary to endure. And during the training camp, Karasuno becomes aware of their shortcomings, and they work to improve physically and mentally. Now this process, as stated before, is refreshing, as it doesn't portray Karasuno as the team that got all their defects amended overnight. The new and improved Karasuno that we see after the training arc was built deliberately, gradually, and with persistence. This process isn't akin to other shonen when a time skip is interjected into the story, and we are instantly meant to believe that our heroes are stronger. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with that approach, it's just more believable to accept the amelioration of our protagonist when we see their ups and downs, and the good, bad, and ugly of their progress. This portrayal of a training arc is much more realistic and genuine, and as a result of this genuinity, when we see our heroes prevail, it makes our reaction to it more genuine, as we've seen the strenuous process from the start. Now after all the drudgery and endurance, Karasuno faces off against Apple Josai once again after losing to them. What this match exhibits is growth, not only for Karasuno, but for both sides. On Apple Josai's team, they have a new powerful striker in Kyotani, aka the Mad Dog. Also, Oikawa has made massive strides, as shown with his powerful service ace. But we also see Karasuno's growth as well. For instance, instead of Nishinoya being just a libero who serves, his skillset becomes more versatile, as he can now jump serve. Hinata vastly improved his blocking as a result of his training with Ike Ukai. Yamaguchi also becomes more dependable for Karasuno, as he becomes the clutch server needed to gain momentum. Kageyama becomes a better coordinator, and Tsukishima's new vigor translates to his greater contribution to the team. And with the combined advancements of all of Karasuno and their combined efforts, Karasuno was able to finally defeat their rival Apple Josai in a grueling, exhaustive match. With the final decision made, the crowd erupts as the once flightless crows soar back to prominence. This victory showed that through hard work and determination, Karasuno was able to accomplish what others thought they couldn't do, and that each individual had to go through their own individual arcs of growth in order for Karasuno to collectively become the powerful team they came to be. Hinata, Kageyama, Asahi, Tsukishima, and many others had to overcome their own ordeals and resurrections. Hinata had to overcome his lack of experience and lack of height. Kageyama had to overcome his own selfish nature and be more trusting of his teammates. Asahi had to overcome his fear of failing his teammates and trust that they will support him no matter how many times he fails. Sugawara learned to let go of his pride and let Kageyama take his place as starting setter for the betterment of the team. Tsukishima learned that his laziness was not only detrimental to his companions, but to himself. Yamaguchi had to learn that even though he may not be the most talented on the team, he could still contribute in big ways, and even if he fails multiple times, he mustn't let those failures deter his confidence. Even Takeda had to step up as the head coach and reconnect Karasuno's relationship with Nekoma and other teams. Yachi had to overcome her own insecurities of being villager B to find her purpose. Even Inoshita had to temporarily step up as the leader of the group as Daichi was put out of commission for a while. And there are many more individual arcs, but you get the point. Karasuno didn't win out the gate. They were underdogs, mocked at, and seen as easy prey. They had to crawl themselves out of the mud in order to gain their respect. And although they crawled out, that process was ugly, sad, and frustrating, but they made it. And it's through this process of going from flightless crows to crows that soar the skies that makes Haikyuu to me the purest shonen.